Hello. So I decided to make a video all about doing stand-up comedy for the first time. So, hello, I'm Leslie. I'm an artist and an art therapist, and I tend to have generally been making content about those topics. However, actually, this year things have been a bit different. I've still been doing art therapy, and I've done a lot of that. But I got involved in stand-up comedy and I started to do some comedy. So rewind to back in April. Out of the blue, I saw an advert for Ultra Comedy on, I think it might have been Facebook, it might have been Instagram, somewhere on social media. And I actually quite impulsively clicked more information. And there must have been something about it that drew me in. But I clicked to find out more. And then I kind of forgot about it, to be honest, and then didn't really think much of it. And the next minute, I was sent an email and added to the Facebook group, yada yada yada. Next minute, we're starting the 8 weeks of training. Now, when I set about to do this, I didn't imagine just what would happen. So keep an eye on to the end of the video, and I can tell you about how things went. So what Ultra Comedy is Ultra Comedy is part of a events company that put on charity events, not just comedy, but things like boxing, things like ballroom dancing, and help people to do that training, complete novices, to then be able to raise money for charity. We were raising money for cancer research. Ultra also raised money for Mind and also Make-A-Wish Foundation, lots of different charities that could be really resonate with you. And so actually, what part of the pull was being able to do something that's a challenge, but also being able to do something that would be able to give to a charity and to be useful. Now, I used to do a lot of obstacle races and a lot of triathlons, and because of my health and fitness declining somewhat, I have not done any of those things for ages. So I wanted to have a challenge, and it was a bit of a mental challenge and very much stepping out my comfort zone. If you've ever stepped out of your comfort zone with something, what happens is there's that point where you go, shall I do it? Shall I do it? Shall I maybe on your marks, get set, shall I go? And then you might either do it or not do it. And we can miss out on so many things if we don't step out of our comfort zones. And as well as that dilemma, back and forth, we can experience anxiety, we can experience excitement, and it's down to us to be able to take that leap of faith and just go for it, regardless of what's going to happen. So we started off doing some training, and a whole bunch of us met at a bar in Leeds City Centre, and we had the coach, who was James. He's a professional comedian, come along and train us all about the different how we're going to develop some content, where on earth, how suddenly becoming funny. And there was something really quite crazy in that first week when people were kind of looking at each other, almost kind of like nervous and wondering what on earth's going to happen. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm not a very funny person. Sometimes I'll have a laugh with somebody, but I wouldn't consider myself to be funny. Or I'll tell a joke and I've no idea what somebody will laugh, and I've no idea what I said afterwards. So the idea of actually standing on stage and doing our 5 minutes of comedy felt really, really scary and felt quite overwhelming. But what happened with the training is that for the first 4 weeks, training's really good, I'd definitely advise it. What James was doing was getting us into the zone. He would hype us up. We'd be playing games, and we'd be looking through kind of like famous comedians and different styles, learning about different ways of writing jokes, different styles of writing, getting us to be creative, getting us to free ourselves up and say silly things, and being a bit kind of loosen up, I guess, and be able to think about maybe the mundane subjects and making it a little bit quirky, combining different things together, doing little stories, doing all sorts of different things. So all that content, and we were doing this content creation for 4 of the 8 weeks. I don't know why I'm holding 5 fingers up, but 4 of the 8 weeks. And there was something where I was just thinking that, okay, let's just work with this. Let's trust the process and work with this. It's really important to trust the process, especially when it's a subject that you don't know anything about. You have to trust the people that are working with you. And so I had a notebook. I haven't got the actual notebook here, but I had a notebook and I was scrolling. And one night in the middle of the night, I woke up in the middle of the night and started writing. And that represents a technique called stream of consciousness, which they were sharing. It was really cool that they were sharing all of this stuff, this nuggets of information. And so I had this book. And then after in the 5th week, we then had to come back to the bar and perform. So I was thinking, you know what? It's fine. I've got something written down loosely on a piece of paper. What we'll probably do is we'll probably just sit around the table and we'll just talk and we'll read out what we've got in front of us. And that, I felt a bit nervous, but I was thinking that's going to be okay. That's going to be cool. And was that what we had to do? Absolutely not. So we turned up on that 5th week, and the guy who, we had a different coach that week. That was Jed. And he was moving the tables around, moving the chairs around, and he's going, "Are you ready to perform?" Am I ready to perform? I'm ready to read something out. But he had us standing at the front, and the rest of the crowd, who quite a few had dropped out by then, not sure why. The rest of the crowd rest of our ultra comedy team were sat then. So we had a bit of an audience. So it was genuinely performing, and yeah, quite nervous. And I don't know whether it's good to go first or last, or sometimes it can be hard to get it to go in first because that's really quite nerve-wracking. Other times it's harder to go last. And maybe going in the middle. Sorry, my hair's a mess. Going in the middle might be optimum, but nevertheless, I went last and I was watching as people, and we were just laughing so much. And there was something really fun about how a bunch of people who hadn't met each other before, who didn't really think ourselves to be funny, were just coming out with the funniest things. And so then we had that felt good. And it's kind of right, okay, I was really nervous then, but that felt good. But there was sort of like we didn't really have anything to lose because we could go wrong and it would be fine. And then for the next 3 weeks after that, we kept practicing, and we would be fine-tuning things. At one point, in 1 week, James said to us, "You know what? You need to be right under 6 minutes. We're aiming for 5, but you need to be under 6 minutes. We're not having you any more than that. And if you go over that time, then we're just going to cut you out. It's just going to cut." And it was like, "Oh my God." And I was thinking, you know what? Mine's probably more like 10 minutes. This is nuts. So I don't know. I didn't really know how long mine was. So I took out a whole chunk of material that I'd written. And some of that I really liked. I really enjoyed talking about it. But I just, on that day, session 6, I think it might be, I just took out this whole chunk. And then my thing came to 5.5 minutes. It's like, right, that's cool. And anyway, fast forward to the day, the event. This is us. There were 8 of us in the end. There was probably about 25 or something that signed up to begin with that went to the first trainings. But 8 of us core students, comedy students that were did it to the end, that were dedicated, maybe a little bit lost the plot a little bit, maybe midlife crises going on. Anyway, so we turned up to the Wardrobe, which is a bar in Leeds, and they have a big stage. They have a whole lot of people there. We had to sell tickets to our friends. So, like, one of the conditions of doing ultra comedy is that you're getting free training, which is amazing, I've got to say. And in order to do that, in order to take part, you need to commit and you need to be able to sell at least 10 tickets to your family and your friends. Now, on day one, I was saying, you know what, the selling tickets to my family and friends is the scariest part because I had just moved not too recently, but just moved back up to Leeds, and a lot of my friends live miles away, and I was feeling quite nervous about how the actual um show's going to be in the end. So we were having to sell tickets, not knowing what the product was going to be, and that took quite a lot of a risk and quite a lot of a I feel so grateful for everybody that bought tickets because you had no clue how it was going to be, and it's a real commitment to how you're supporting your friends and family, like that people were able to do that. So in the end, I was having a bit of a panic because we had a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure to sell tickets. We'd go along, and one of the ultra staff would be kind of, come on, come on, come on, have you raised any money, have you sold your tickets? And we kind of, part of that was getting a bit of an excitement, part of that was an encouragement. Sometimes it felt like it was a bit too much pressure, but other times it felt quite exciting and um part of the overall feeling of being out of your comfort zone. And so but yeah, in the end, there's a whole load of people that I knew there, and we had, oh, I can't even think how many people. There are probably about 150 people or something in this audience in the bar. Loads of people that I hadn't seen. It felt like a nice reunion. There's people I'd not seen since before the pandemic, and people I'd not seen for a long time. And just really, really nice to have people there. So we didn't know the order. You don't know the order that you're going to be performing until on the day, and then the orders picked out randomly, so it's not doesn't matter like what place you are. So I was actually what place was I? I was fourth, so I was the last person in the first half of all the acts, and that felt like a good place to go. It worked for me. It was nice to have that decided on my behalf. And this is where it's like we're walking in and you're walking and you're like, oh, there's the green room. This is like so exciting. And we were told, don't, if you want to have a drink, but don't drink too much because you don't want to be drunk going on stage and then forgetting your lines and or slurring your words. And but there was something really about the energy of there, and like, oh, everyone was so supportive. It was so amazing. And we had our two coaches, Jed and James, doing their own stand-up and introducing us, doing the charity stuff, doing all of that. So the energy was really, really wholehearted, and everyone was in a good mood. It was, I wanted to, even if my jokes weren't very funny, my intention was that people had a nice time, and that I wanted all my friends and family to have a nice time. And I can 1000% guarantee that that was the vibe there. People were having a nice time. And so actually being able to make people laugh was a bonus. So, we're going on one at a time, and as each person was going on, what we'd do is we would hear all the laughter from people, and we'd be sitting in the audience as well, and then we'd run backstage and give our mates a hug and high fives and all of that. And gets to the point where it's my turn, and I was thinking, what I need to do is manage my emotional state so that I don't kind of panic, or so that I'm kind of working with that. And as you can see, I move my arms around. So the way that I regulate is often through in a kinesthetic way. And what I was wanting to do is anchor in a feeling of flow, which flow for me is about movement. And so I would do this and anchor in a feeling of calmness and confidence. So that's more about, I would maybe work with that and just some of those things. And just kind of being able to let go of the outcome. Let go, it doesn't matter like whether it ends up being a complete disaster, it doesn't matter as long as people are having a nice time. And it's all about the learning experience. So it's really nice to go on, and there's a video of all of the acts, and I'll link the video of me doing this below. But I think there's a bit of a spring in my step. I was like, jumping on, like have a little skip. And yeah, it was so funny. And there's some things that you don't expect. So I never in my wildest dreams, thought I would do stand-up comedy. Even, a couple of years ago, I'd write these things to do before you're 40, and then not finish them all. So then change it to things to do before you're 50. And I never had stand-up comedy on there. But I always liked the idea of going on stage and talking about art therapy and talking about art and helping people to be more creative and more expressive. So actually, in a roundabout way, the universe has brought this in a different way. But yeah, it was really fun, and everybody was amazing. Everybody was really funny, and it was such a fun experience. So if you are thinking about doing the ultra comedy events, and you're thinking not sure whether to do it or not, and thinking, oh, it might be quite hard to do, just trust the process. Go for it. The people that they employ to coach, the comedians that they employ to coach you, are brilliant. They are so talented, so skilled, have got so much patience and so much encouragement. And I just feel so grateful that I got to do this, because we're now in the middle of August, and we're talking August, July, June, May, like just over 4 months ago. This wasn't even on my radar. So, and so much has happened since. So, one of the things that has happened since doing the charity event is that I did my first open mic stand-up comedy performance, and that just happened this week. Now, when I first did the charity thing, when I first signed up to that, I was absolutely convinced that this would just be a one-off. It was going to be a one-off. I didn't ever think that I would be doing it again. But yeah, so did some more on Wednesday in Santiago's in Leeds, and then I also have 2 more events coming up, and there's one in Wakefield and one on the outskirts of Leeds as well. So who knows where this might take me? At the moment, I'm just seeing it as a bit of fun and a way of stepping out my comfort zone again, I suppose. But when it stops being fun, that's when I think that, yeah, maybe it's not for me. And I've always been a bit of a dabbler, so why not dabble in this? So I'm really sorry. I keep faffing about with my hair, so I do apologize if that's been a distraction. I do apologize. I got up really early this morning because I needed to do something and didn't wash my hair, so my hair is a complete mess. But to summarize, I did the stand-up ultra comedy charity event, which was 8 weeks of training, followed by a professional performance. I wasn't professional particularly. It was a bit of a novice, but proper decent venue. And then raising money for charity. What's not to like? And then one of the final thing that people often say, and it feels a bit of a cliche, is that when you do these sorts of things, you make friends for life. And I'm always like, yeah. But you know what? The other 7 of the ultra bunch that I was involved with. I absolutely love to bits, and yeah, mates for life. Love it. Thanks so much. Bye.